Oh, welcome to another episode of the Growth Compass. Shout out to our sponsor senders. If you'd like to do cold email deliverability correctly, you hit the link in the description. But if it weren't for them, I would not be able to do cool interviews with cool people like Mo. What's happening?
All right, cool. Well, great to be on, and thanks for the invite. Yeah, I've called in here from Menlo Park, California,
That's right.
and yeah, I've just been building a startup for the past 6 months.
Just been building a startup. Well, I think there's a lot of cool and really interesting stuff that you were saying about your path to getting here and your understanding of the technology behind it, which I think are both very interesting things to talk about. So if you could just start with a quick intro of yourself and also what you're building.
For sure. Hey guys, Mo Nasir. I am founder of General Agency AI. We are a startup building enterprise workflow automation, or a tool for enterprise workflow automation using browser agents and just agentic flows. Agentic AI is all the rage right now, but we're trying very hard to kind of cut through the hype and build something that creates real value. And yeah, that's the startup I've been building for the past 6 months. Before that, I was at NVIDIA working on self-driving cars. I and I guess the idea is that like self-driving cars were the first like valuable in production AI agent, arguably speaking, and kind of transferring over those learnings and um, those ideas into agents that can do knowledge work tasks instead of just driving a car. And so yeah, that's just been at this for the past few months, and we recently raised a seed round, and we've hired a few
Congrats.
people. So thank you. And so we're off to the races.
So before we get into specifically your guys' value add in your journey so far, what was it about your experience at NVIDIA, or if there were experiences or was an experience before NVIDIA that also pertains to this question? But what about that experience, your introduction into technology, your deepening of an understanding in an area, what set you up to be the type of person that would recognize an opportunity and say, I'm going to go all in now? Like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to invest my life in this idea.
Yeah, for sure. I would start by saying that this is not my first startup idea or first startup. I mean, I've been doing startups before, like on the side, but I guess this would be my first, like, all in, do this, like, fully 100%. This is the only thing I'm doing, and there's nothing else on the side. Like, I'm all in on this. I guess, like, previously, it was more so driven by a desire to do something interesting, and I guess that's kind of where it starts from. Like, you don't want to do something if it's not interesting, if it's boring, and you're just there to, like, okay, maybe we'll turn a quick buck and that's about it. You really want to come into this with the idea that this is going to be your life's work. Like this, like, you're trying to build a generational company, and that um, you know you're not just, I mean, you're a startup now, but you're not going to be a startup at some point in the future. Like, you want to have that vision of the point at which you are no longer a startup, you are a company, TM. And so I guess, having done like startups on the side, the one thing that's super cool about startups is that you're basically building something from nothing, and you're more than building a product or building a thing. Like, you're almost building a piece of society, almost like a way the world works. Like, for instance, like Amazon, for instance, like almost like everyone like uses Amazon, and it's like, I mean, sure, they made like this platform or this company around online shopping, but it's just so tightly ingrained into the way the world works now, or like, at least, in like the US at least, is that like everyone shops on Amazon to get their essentials or get something that they want. Like, you want it, you have it in 2 days. And so that started out as like a simple, like, online catalog for buying things, and then now it's like ingrained in everyone's lives. It's like a household name. And so you kind of have to start from somewhere, and building something that makes people's lives easier, or just makes the world better, is sorry, I missed the second part of your question.
No, no, that's fine. I think, I mean, that does relate to. I think that's what you're speaking to is like the result of a number of your experiences and the headspace that you moved into this venture with, which is useful. I was just curious if there's anything specific in NVIDIA or beforehand that led to that realization that you then spoke to.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I guess like in NVIDIA, I was a new grad. I was fresh out of college and was working there for 4.5 years or so. And I would say that I mean I was given like some level of responsibility, like as I was shown the ropes. Like initially, it was like I was getting into like the professional world. And this was like my first job out of college. And then over time, you start getting responsibility. You start taking ownership over different parts of like the system that you're working on. You start working cross functionally, like with other teams and kind of coordinating with them and kind of getting alignment on different workflows and stuff. And that was fun. For what it's worth, that was pretty fun.
That's good.
But it got to the point where when you have a lot of people in one place in one organization, there's a lot of there's a very big information tax. There's a lot of overhead required to kind of keep everyone on the same page, make sure that everyone knows what everyone else is doing, and kind of keep everything like humming along. So I guess the realization was that, especially with with AI being the next big thing, and you have like these companies with like 5 or 10 people becoming like billion-dollar businesses. You have this very high leverage way of creating value that is unprecedented. Like before you need like what 50, 100, maybe 500 people to be a billion-dollar business. Now it's like five, and then we're going to eventually see the first one person billion-dollar company. And so there's a lot of leverage in terms of being able to do more with less, I guess. And so I wanted to see. This is like the perfect time to get started. I mean, like, this is still it's still in the hype stage. Now it's like kind of going from hype into like widespread adoption. But we're getting into the point where not everyone knows exactly everything about AI, or like what are the use cases, how it can be used. It hasn't touched everyone yet. I mean, at most, like you might have some people around the world who've like heard of ChatGPT, and they maybe ask it a few questions here and there, but it's not something that's like as tightly ingrained into people's lives or as widespread usage as like say Amazon. And so I think this is like the right moment to just give it a try. I wanted to see, okay, what's the worst that could happen? I mean, this the company doesn't work out, and maybe we pivot to something that's like not AI, or we do, or in the worst case, I just go get another job and back to where I started. And it's like that's not a I like those odds. It's like the upside is unlimited and then the downside is capped.
Yeah.
So I was like, what the heck, might as well, like there's so many tailwinds, like pushing anyone who dares to take the chance to go in and build a startup in AI or something adjacent, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so that was the idea. It was
Well,
just
you had also spoke to something interesting about the evolution of models and the technology in the past, year and a half or something crazy like that. Could you speak to that again?
yeah, yeah, for sure. So last summer is when we started seeing vision language models become useful. They've been around from before that, but they were mainly just like prototypes. It started becoming actually useful enough or good enough to be useful last summer. And so this is like very specifically like why we're doing the startup that I'm working on right now, where we're building browsing agents for kind of knowledge work, for just getting anything that a human can do on a computer, just getting that done. And so there was this huge unlock with these new models that came out last summer with these vision models. And so now you can kind of take a screenshot of a website, and you can and the model will understand where each like what each button does, or like what it could do. It could infer what those buttons could do, and then can choose what action to take based on some instructions. So if you say go to like Domino's website and like order a pizza, we can do that now. And so that was actually one of our test cases. We in 2 weeks towards the end of last summer, my co-founder and I, we just built a quick prototype of this browsing agent that was state of the art, beat out some of the existing agents that were out.
And
And
it was state of the art because it ordered Domino's.
it was state of the art. We found out after the fact. We ran a benchmark on the web
No,
voice
I
version.
got you, got you.
We got the state of the art on on that benchmark. So there were other agents out there. We tried the same task, it just failed.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
But our system was able to order Domino's. During the testing, we accidentally ordered pizza about 700 miles north of where we actually were.
Wow.
And so this was during testing. This is during development because we were saying, okay, what if we made a pizza ordering bot?
Wait.
And
What
so
happened? Did they end up delivering to you?
so we had to call them to cancel it. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is before. So this is after week one when we had something minimally working, and it was kind of working, but it was like
Yeah,
not great. It didn't
sure.
have any human in the loop capability. So like it would when it came to the checkout part where it says okay, put in your first name, your last name, email, phone number, etc., etc., etc. Instead of asking the human, which is it's supposed to do, it's like ask the human for that information. It just like hallucinated details, and so like for first name it put literally first name, and then last name it put literally last name. Placed the order, and so we had to call this random like Domino's in Redding, California, being like, "Hey guys, we have a pizza that was mistakenly ordered under the name first name last name."
That's so funny.
And Domino's like has this thing where it's like you can choose to not pay until you're at the store. And
Okay.
so it actually went through with the order, and it ordered this like pizza with just olives all over it under first name last name. But yeah,
Wow.
it eventually to
I mean, that is. I mean, like you're speaking to. I mean, it is funny like to talk about, but that is, I think, not intuitively a pretty complex thing to do, right?
yeah.
At least for a model, at least for something that you built, or
It
no?
was mainly because it was missing the piece where like, there's something called an ask user action where it's like, okay, I don't have the information I need to proceed. Let me ask the user what to do.
Okay.
And so like we added that in, and afterwards it was able to like order pizza, book a table. We have, as part of our company culture, we occasionally go to Mastro's Steakhouse. That was the restaurant that our agent first restaurant that our agent fully autonomously booked for us. And yeah, so now it will ask the user proactively if it needs some information. It's not going to just guess.
So how big is your? So you said you and your co-founder. How big is your team now?
Now we're five, so we have
That's
three
amazing.
employees. Yeah. We front loaded hiring. We decided to front load hiring mainly because it takes time to get people up to speed. Also, the people that we were speaking to. So one thing that's like non-negotiable for us for hiring, at least for our first like 10 to 15 hires, is that they're former founders. High agency is non-negotiable. So everyone on our team, they founded a startup before, and so they know what it takes, what goes into building a startup, and so at least we don't need to kind of impart that knowledge onto
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
That
yeah,
they already know what it takes.
yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, now we're a team of five, and
So then, where you guys are at in your growth cycle, you said that you had gone through IC, but you're not actively in that program at the moment, right?
this was winter 25, so this was January through March.
Got it. Okay. So then you guys did that January through March, and then you had like at what point did you have something? And if it's not that point yet, you correct me if I'm wrong. But at what point did you have something that you were actively trying to sell?
I would say that was like mid batch, so around February is when we had a product built around
Awesome.
our agent. That was like version one of the product. And we do have we have paying customers now, and very recently we kind of flipped the switch, and so our revenue is now scalable. Before, like we've had to like turn down customers because it's like we don't have the bandwidth to support
Yeah, yeah,
this right now. So think of it this way, for enterprise automation, it's like okay, you have like these integrations like with their internal systems, and then you have all of the meat in between where it's like okay, this actually does stuff. So parts of that are automated, and then other parts are kind of like we have to kind of intervene and babysit it a little bit. And so that that was our constraining factor. So we only have five customers, and well, they're all enterprise customers that have like these very large albeit well defined tasks, and so we kind of have to like service those manually, or had to up until now. And so now it's like fully automated, and now we can kind of just keep adding customers. And this automation tool is usable. Use it themselves. We don't have to build out the automations for them, unless they're like a very large customer, in which case we will do that as part of the forward deployed resources and whatnot.
yeah. Well, so in the spirit of the podcast, so I have some questions about how you got to where you're at, and then how you're navigating the stage that you've gotten to, which is super awesome. So when you were, so I guess you said in February you started reaching out to people to get paying customers. So what was it like to get your first feel?
It was easier than I thought, actually.
Was it through a network? Was it cold outreach?
Bit of both. So there was one customer through like warm connection, and there was another one, that was like cold outreach. And I think I underestimated how much a good product matters. I think the people who are like, oh, I have to like send like a million messages and like only like five respond. That's probably because either your messaging is bad or your product isn't as good as you think it is.
Uh-huh.
And I hate to be blunt here, but
Now, we love being
kind of
blunt.
it's kind of true though. It's like, okay, you have a product, but like it's like no one cares about this. But then if you have something that people actually care about or something that actually creates real value, then getting customers is just a matter of messaging, making sure that like that message is conveyed clearly. And so I think that was the hardest part. The hardest part was conveying it clearly, because like once the counterparty understood what I was talking about or what our system does, it was like, okay, yeah, I'm sold. And so that was, yeah, it was surprisingly easy. It's just that like you hear a lot of advice from so many different places. And so I guess like part of the challenge of being a founder is kind of having a nice noise filter, or not just a noise filter. You're kind of trying to like pull signal from the noise. And so that's even harder than just filtering everything out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think a big part of it is you just have to do it, and you just have to experience it and live it. And then that's how you learn, really. I mean, sure, you have some advice here and there for things that might be fatal or catastrophic, and obviously heed those. But at the end of the day, I think I've learned more by just doing it myself than I have from listening to other people.
Well, how was that? So if the outreach part wasn't something that you found too involved at the beginning, when you have a nascent product, what was the experience for you navigating onboarding or navigating customer success thereafter, so that you could navigate, like, because you need people to use it to show where it's broken, but but you need to balance that in a way where you won't lose them, but you also need them to kind of be beta testers. So how
Yeah,
was that experience for you?
for sure, for sure. So number one, we limited the number of design partners initially. So we capped it at five. And there was market pull. There were people like inquiring about it. There were people who were like interested about what we're doing, and so we had to, yeah, we had to limit it. We had to limit it because we were constrained with how much we could do the customer success. So we kept it at five customers, and even though there was market pull, people were like asking us for, hey, I want to try this out. I mean, we did have a self-serve thing that needs a little bit of help. It wasn't fully self-serve. It was there. It did a thing, but it wasn't something that people could intuitively use, and that needed a little bit of work. And so now we're trying to push a self-serve product. There was so in YC you have a bunch of like former founders or current founders that come for talks and stuff. Brian Chesky, CEO of Airbnb, he gave a chat at some point during the batch, and I remember what this one piece of advice that I really took to heart was that you have like something like you have like what's a 5-star experience for the user, for the customer, and then you got to think about that. Okay, what does it look like? Like, what is the user journey? What are the features of the product for a 5-star user experience? And then just for the sake of argument, you kind of say, okay, what's a 6-star experience? Just for the sake of an exercise, like you have a 5-star experience and you take it another step further. What's a 6-star experience? And you do that again for 7, 8, 9, 10 stars. What's a 10-star experience? You take a 5-star experience, you double it. What does that look like? And then from there, that becomes your north star for building the product and like, designing the experience. And so we said, okay, the reason why we capped it at 5 people is so we can give a 10-star experience to each one of these customers. Like, we are there, available virtually 24/7. We have a direct Slack channel or a direct line with each of these customers, and if there's any issue, we will step in and like manually do the work if necessary. If this automation like fails for whatever reason, we will do the work like mechanical Turks, basically. And so that's what we did. And so we've had zero churn, all of them paying. Not a single one has left us. And so that's what we've done up until this point. And now we have a system that is like fully automated, and now we can actually scale it up, and hopefully we can kind of keep that minimal churn.
Yeah.
Hold.
Were there some major advancements that you guys made in the product, like in that period of time, while still retaining the customers? Something where you were
Yeah,
like, "Whoa, I was not expecting this, and this is like a major thing," you know?
yeah. Mm, I don't know if there was anything particularly unexpected,
Nice, nice.
but I would say there were definitely a lot of advancements, particularly in kind of like how we frame the product. I think one thing that one like headwind that we have faced in doing this is that AI was very hypey for a number of years, like 2021, 2022. ChatGPT came out. Oh my god, it's like woo,
Yeah,
it's sentient. It's like it's alive.
yeah.
And then people started coming. There's this realization, this kind of this it's almost this reckoning where it's like this is actually not as cracked out as it is to be. I mean, sure, it's helping people, like there's some value to this, and like if it's applied judiciously, but like overall there's the hype outpaced the value for a number of years. And so the people that we're speaking to, at least like large companies like CIOs, CTOs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they're more conscientious about like, okay, I want to see this have like proved out value first before I buy into it. It's not something that like they're willing to, oh my god, everyone's doing it, so therefore I'm going to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone's like looking at it, but not everyone's buying it until the value is proven first.
Got it.
And so that's one thing that we really focused on, is like, how do we create value first, and then we will scale up our business.
Well, how does that contribute to your strategy for growing now? Now that you've reached this benchmark, like, and you're
Yeah. So, well, the benchmark was reached like last October. It was something that we've had for a while, and I think it's less so about the bench, and I think like the benchmark is kind of, I wouldn't say it's a red herring, but it's kind of like it's mainly meant for like it's mainly meant for an academic audience. The customer doesn't care about the benchmark; they care about, does the thing work for my use case or
right, right,
not.
right.
And so the benchmark was a nice like thing to talk to investors about and like raise our seed round. But at the end of the day, it's like, how happy are our customers, how much are they paying us, what are they paying us for, and what are the reasons for which they are staying. And we just paid very careful attention to all of those things. And so I guess like the biggest advancement is we fired ourselves. Like before we were kind of like these 24/7 customer success like managers doing this, but then we built the systems, the automated systems that that was part of our vision from the start. We built those systems, and so we no longer have to step in as often as we had to.
Nice.
We can step in at a much lower frequency, to the point where it's actually manageable, and so now we can kind of scale this up.
So yeah, so with that, with a product like this and with a market like you guys are serving, what type of strategy are you guys looking at putting forward? Is it a lot of conferences? Is it a lot of network? A lot of like, I don't know, LinkedIn marketing. Like, I don't know. What are you guys thinking?
LinkedIn marketing is one part of it. So I've been, well, mostly regularly posting on LinkedIn. One interesting insight that I found about LinkedIn is the posts that got the most engagement are personal stories and flexes. So like if we're like flexing something like that gets more engagement. Then there's like sometimes like just for this, just to please the algorithm gods, I like post every other day,
Yeah, yeah,
or like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I sometimes like just have like ideas or like thoughts or like reflections on like how is it building a business and stuff, and that gets some engagement and like people comment on it and stuff. But by and large, why LinkedIn is very much a a place to flex, and that's
yeah.
what gets you the most reactions. Or like sometimes like there are those posts that like, oh, comment
Right,
my
right,
guide
right.
handbook, and like I'll message it to you. That those are like those hacky.
Yeah.
Some
So
I
then,
personally don't have a good opinion of that,
yeah, I
but it's
get
like,
you.
come on.
So then is it mostly like you know straight selling? Is it referrals through
Yeah.
current?
Well, so far it's like inbound. So far it's like we have big wait list of inbound leads, which is pretty solid. But we're now shifting into more outbound, especially because we started out as like a consumer slash prosumer product. We were trying to like cursor this, and it's like, okay, just have adoption by people, and then they tell their friends, network affected, and they had zero marketing, zero outbound sales, zero like whatever. It's like let the customers come to you. We realized that we have a very much of a dark forest problem where it's like, okay, you have this thing, like you exist, but no one knows about you. It's like the biggest you could have the best product in the world, but if no one knows about it, what good is it really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so we're doing like LinkedIn marketing. We just had a happy hour in New York for Tech Week last
I
Thursday.
saw that. Too late,
Yeah,
but I did see that you did that.
yeah. No, that was very fun. The whole team came together. We kind of like doubled up as like a team on site as well.
Nice.
And yeah, no, that was a really fun time. But we're shifting gears into more like outbound and kind of going more upmarket towards enterprise, mainly because the value of a browser agent, like so just a little primer on what we do. So we have a browser agent that can use a website, any website, whether it has an API or not. So just like visually looks at the screen, uses your mouse and keyboard, and like takes actions on your behalf. And then we have like API integrations, so like systems that do have APIs, so like your email or your calendar or like DoorDash. Those have
For
APIs.
Domino's.
Well, Domino's is actually the browser, but
Okay,
now
okay,
there's
okay.
server for DoorDash
Yeah,
and
okay, got it.
all sorts of stuff. Now, the reason why we're doing both is because browser agents on their own are not actually very useful because like most things, valuable systems have APIs, and the value doesn't really come from individual pieces of the system, but rather like the entire end-to-end orchestration. So like if you have to get the data from here, you have to process it in this way, and you have to put it here in this format. And if you have to, the marginal cost of going from a fully automated system to like adding a human in the loop is a lot. So now you have to hire someone, you have to like pay them a
Right, right.
salary, you have to do all of these things for this work, which can be automated end to end. And that's where the real value unlock comes from. And so we have this full end to end system. We have a browser agent that can use systems without APIs. And if you think about it, the systems that don't have APIs but are very valuable are healthcare. So healthcare billing and insurance, either like commercial insurance or like private insurance. You have like supply chain management. You have they have all of these internal tools. Like they either use like SAP or Salesforce or a number of internal systems that just don't have APIs. They've been custom built by like some consultant for this organization, and they've been using it for 20 years. And the marginal cost of switching to a AI native solution is like really, really high
Mhm.
unless someone like comes out there and does it. And so the immediate value add of our system is we can interface with those systems and automate the whole thing end to end. Right now, there are tools out there that handle some part of the system automatically, but there's still a human in the loop going from this online system and then kind of like
Yeah.
doing data entry into the pipeline. Our system finishes that last mile.
So then at the moment, so that's I think that's really good context for my two favorite last questions. Then the first one is, given where you guys are at now, how far you've come and where you guys are looking to go, what is the biggest challenge that you're facing at the moment, and how does it present an opportunity for you?
What is our biggest challenge and how does it present an opportunity? Our biggest challenge, I would say right now, is getting the word out there. So like again, dark forest problem. Our biggest issue is like no one knows about us. Well, we do have people knowing about us, but like getting
You need
awareness
more.
of we need more exactly,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's just going to keep going up from here. I don't think, and here's another interesting thing. There's a reason why Amazon still runs ads, even though they're like one of the largest companies in the world. And it's like, even if you get super big, like the name, like you start like knowing the name, but there's always these like little parts of your business that people don't know about. And so if you see like those random like Amazon ads, are like, oh, I searched for like cooking utensils, and so like it has like a few example, like here's like a blender, here's a KitchenAid, here's a whatever, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of like letting you know that they actually solve the specific like need that you have in that moment. And so like it seems like getting the word out there, establishing those distribution channels is like an ongoing thing. You'll never solve distribution. It's always going to be an ongoing thing. And so I would say that that's our number one thing right now. In terms of an opportunity, how does that present an opportunity? That's a good question.
Well, I think it's there's a lot of opportunity in the challenge of getting the word out there.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Like we're just doing like LinkedIn marketing. I guess like silver lining is that like, we can one piece of advice that YC gives is like launch frequently. It's like, okay, you're iterating, like you're getting the word out there, people know what you're doing. And then but the reason why you can launch frequently is like no one cares if you mess up. Like if you release something that's like completely useless and like sucks, like who cares? Like no one really cares. People are more concerned about like their own lives.
Yeah, right.
And so I think the where we are right now, I mean, sure, we have customers right now. I feel more comfortable like releasing something that's like, half baked now than I would like if we were like $1 billion business.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like, there's a lot more reputation to protect when you're of that size. But right now, it's like, okay, we're like early stage. We can kind of um, do what we need to get off the ground and kind of just like swallow that. I wouldn't say pride, but like it's more like swallow that apprehension of like looking like a fool.
Well, so Mo, you guys are building a lot, and you guys are doing a lot, and I'm curious, what inspires you to do that?
I think it's the whole idea behind building something from nothing. Like in a large organization, you already have something. There's already a business. There's already a product. There's already something that is happening, and you're just kind of incrementally making that better. I think with starting and building a business, you're going from something that never existed before, and you're kind of willing that into existence. And so it's almost like since a child since my childhood I was building things just for fun. I got those like portable fans. Like I was like 6 or 7. I got those like portable fans, so it's like a little like it's a handheld thing. It has a small fan and you
Yeah.
blow it in your face and stuff. I like removed I took it apart. I removed the fan. I got a spoon and I glued it to the shaft of the motor and made it
Wow.
like a little steering thing. And this is when I was like 6, like in like first grade. And so like I've been building things for the longest time. I mean that like back then it was out of a it was out of necessity of like, okay, we couldn't afford something. Even if it did exist, we couldn't afford it, and so I
Yeah,
had to kind
yeah.
of make do with what we had. It's like kind of just MacGyver something together. But kind of fast forward to now, kind of building something that kind of just like makes everyone's lives easier in general. I mean, sure, like you can make like another B2B SaaS tool that just incrementally makes someone's job easier. But the one thing that has kind of pulled me towards like this full stack end-to-end automation is that, okay, if this is scaled up to the whole world where like all economically valuable work is automated, humans can just retire. We have this like future, we have this like post scarcity society. And so like that I feel is like a quantum leap over yet another dashboard, yet another SaaS tool that like you use for something. I think that's why we kind of so when we started this company, there's something that's like product led or like sales led.
Yeah.
I kind of somewhat half jokingly call ourselves like research led, because that's what we started with. We started out with this like research direction, and then we productized things as we went along. But at its core, we are at the frontier of what's possible, and like we're nearing the point where AI is going to be like it's going to surpass human levels of agency, and so I think that's very exciting. I know there's a lot of like doomers saying like, "Oh my God, we're all
Yeah.
going to die." Like I have a very optimistic view of
Good.
what it's going to, and that's the most inspiring part of
Well,
it.
Mo, well, thank you. Well, thank you so much. If somebody else was interested in keeping in touch with your journey or general agency's journey, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, yeah. Drop me a line at mo@generalagency.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That was awesome. That's so cool. Thank you for telling your story. I'm excited to see where you guys go throughout the rest of this year and, have another conversation with the update. So
Sure.
thank you for taking the time.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on.
You got it. I'll see you on the next one.